All right, good morning, everybody. As always, it is an absolute pleasure to get my Monday morning spent with you all, getting the opportunity to share with you ideas and actions that you can put into place at your facility to help grow your business, to help impact your players, and also to help your facility grow and retain its members. So today, my name is Will Robbins, still was Will Robbins last week, but so I said today first. But anyway, Will Robbins, founder and CEO of RGX. And today I am super excited to talk about defining a clear path to play college golf. It is definitely close to my heart because without American college golf, I would not be standing here today. I don't know where I'd be, but I know that for me, if I wasn't going to play golf in college, I wasn't going to go to university. And so to come out to America from England, get out here, and actually I played 2 years of community college golf and then got a full ride to go and play at a private school in Florida. And the experience that I had was just transformational. I did a business degree, got to play college golf, and just, set me up to go ahead and go on my journey to where I am today. So really want to share with all of you what my perspective is on helping parents, helping players to define a path to help them play at the right school. And so I'm sure there's a lot of coaches on here that have got a lot of experience with this. I'm looking forward to getting your insights on it. So be sure to ask us some questions in the chat box. Remember, you can just go in here and I'll put in hi right now. So love to kind of get your thoughts and feedback. There's a whole ton of stuff to go over today. So please go ahead, grab a pen and paper, your iPad, take notes. But what I want to do is run through what I see to be the best way that you can find and define a path for your students to go and play college golf. So as always, I know it is a Monday morning. So, it's Monday morning for me. For some of you that are in Australia, it might be a little bit further on than that. But we start with a question. So today, I want you to go ahead and actually write in your question. I'm not going to give you a whole bunch of answers on this one. What I'm going to ask is, where do you have questions about defining a path for college golf? I'm going to give you some insights, things like picking the right school, finding the right program, helping and guiding the parents, tournaments to play in so your players can be seen, and others. So I'd just like to start off, let's just take a minute to just go ahead and get in the chat box. Remember, it's what you put in today that you're going to get out of it. So where are the areas that you have struggled with, or you have questions about, or really why are you on this call today, right? I mean, you are taking your time, which is valuable and precious, to be on here today. So I'd love you to just hop in the chat box and let's just take a little time here to figure out where do you have the most questions. So Patrick, helping and guiding the parents, okay? Yeah, come on, you can put A, B, C, or D, or you can put, you can fill in the other, but definitely looking for those answers. So I will move forward as I see them coming in. Okay, using recruiting services such as NSR. Yeah, so we'll definitely discuss that today. So yeah, if you've got questions, let's put them in here. I want to see them. Thanks, Kevin. Come on, Trey. Come on, I want to see some. I'm not moving. I've got a ton of stuff to go through today, everybody. So come on, let's get active. Let's see some more activity going in here. I know it's having to type things out, which takes a little bit more time, but at least you can put an A, B, C, or D. Use of how to connect with coaches, Dan Bubany, A through D, exclamation mark. I love that. So keep it going. Okay, so I've got more. Here we go from Trey. I've got more answers than questions for this one for a change. That's awesome. So you mean that I'm going to be picking on you, Trey? That's good. What do you think the playing requirements for boys and girls are? Handicap, tournaments playing. Okay, great. Connecting with coaches. Tim, I create a website for my juniors and help them with recruiting. A former college coach, JJ Wood. Awesome. So we've got a bunch of good stuff in here today. So I'm looking forward to getting feedback off all of you. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to start with here is what I think is the most important part is planning. And so what I want to do is define how I take my students through finding the best fit school for them. And so I think this is kind of like, there's a lot to this one, but I think this is the one that is often skipped over. A lot of players just start looking at, Pepperdine or Alabama, or I'm just got to start looking at these big schools that I know the name of. But I think what it is it's really important to get a planning process in place so that they can have success. And with that said, I'm going to go through what we go through in the steps. So the first thing is in the planning is to understand there's 4 sections that we look at, 4 parts to it. The first one being the player, then the parent, then the school, and then the program. And so to me, what I want to do here is start to look at, and a lot of you are going to know some of this stuff, but I want to go through and understand from the player, I want to start to get a really clear understanding of what they're looking for, right? So for me, that would be understanding, oh, hold on, I don't want it to go forward that far. Hold on, that's going to go ahead and do. I'm just going to bring it all up here, then I'm going to overwhelm you all with it, okay? So with a player, I want to start to understand what is their real tournament scoring average? What are the results that they've had in tournaments? What's their GPA? What's their SAT? I want to get to know who they are because I love where we all want to get to. We all want to play on the PGA Tour. We all want to win majors, right? But what I want to start to understand is where is that player at? And start to get very real with them on what it's going to take to get to that college that they might be desiring. And so for me, there's this sort of this idea of facts versus feelings. And so the feelings are, the commitment level of the player. Does it align with what they're saying? They say they want to go to a Division I school, but when I'm looking at them, I'm like, it doesn't really match up to what they're actually putting in effort-wise. Their goals. Is it, I want to play college golf or I want to win a major? How much effort are they putting in and what are they showing you when they're coming out to coaching? Also with their academic goals, I've got kids, a lot of them have wanted more to get an academic, which I think is absolutely admirable. They've wanted to go and play at a great school, but they're more focused on, I want to get great grades and I want to become a veterinarian or I want to become a doctor. And so golf is kind of secondary to them. So if I don't understand my player, we're not going to be able to find the right type of school. And so I think it's really important that we start with the player and we understand, who they are, how confident they are, and where they want to get to. From there, it leads into the parents. And the parents, the facts of the parents is, they have to be active. They have to be active in getting their kids on the journey, being communicative with you as the coach and being part of this journey, but not overpowering it. And so really the facts for the parents is I need to understand financially where they're at and how they're going to fund it, where they're a resident of. But really, apart from that, it's going to come down to their feelings, the school that they'd like their child to go to, the degree they want their kid to get into, their comfort levels with their child moving away. I have a lot of struggles with parents that are like, she's not leaving the state. It's like, I want her within, driving distance. Others who are totally happy, like my parents, maybe they weren't happy about it, to fly 6,000 miles at 17 years old and go and play college golf in another country. So I think this is where the key here is going through the process of talking to the junior on their own, talking to the parent on their own. We have worksheets that we send them through, and then sitting down together and matching those up. And then as a coach, it's really starting to understand, where are the differences and how do we align them before we start looking for the school? Because it's very easy to just go and start looking at different schools and listing off schools. But if we don't really understand what the student wants and what the parents want and get those aligned first, it's going to be very difficult to go ahead and actually find a school and a program that's going to work for them. So I put school first because I do think that it's the most important thing. It's why we go and play college golf, is to get an education and play golf. You just turn professional if you just wanted to play golf. And so again, now it's starting to look at the academic standards of the school, and starting to understand, when you're looking at that school, the tournament results they have, the grade point average of the team, so you're doing this alongside the program, right? You're not really looking just at the whole school as a whole, but what would my teammates be like? What degrees are they getting? What commitment level are they at? Thinking about Cal or UC Davis versus, say, an NAIA school, right? A Division I Pac-10 school versus NAIA, it's going to be very different standards. And so again, it comes down to this feelings of like, if you're going there to try and become a great golfer versus wanting to become a veterinarian, it's going to be a huge difference to the school that you're going to pick. And I've actually had kids that have turned down scholarships and gone to schools where they haven't even played college golf because they've decided that they want to become a lawyer or they wanted to become a doctor, and that's their decision, but it helped them get into that school. And so as a coach, I think it's really important that we start to give our students this plan of there are multiple options. And the way we do this is we sort of pick out the schools that we know we could get into, right? Of course, you can get into a community college at any time. And we could probably definitely get you a scholarship to an NAIA school or a D2 school. And then we've got those schools that we think we could fit into pretty well, some good D2s and some lower D1s. And then we're going to have our long goal, which is if we have 2 amazing seasons, we might be able to get to that school. But at the same time, that school may be full already. They may already have their roster built out for 2024, 2025. And so this is where, as you start to define those schools, then you get down into the program. And I think this is where it's really key that we start to look at the program in terms of, what's the tournament schedule? What are the tournament results? What's the history of the program? What are you going to have to bring to be part of that team? And then it really comes down to the feeling side of things, which is, for me, I see a lot of parents fall in love with the scholarship or fall in love with the type of school that they're going to, Division I, rather than, okay, your child is going to go to this school and have 4 years being molded by this coach, by this team, and by the experience they're going to have. I would prefer you to look at it in terms of if they don't gel with the team and they don't gel with the coach, this isn't the right school for them to go to. Even though it is Division I, even though you're getting a scholarship, there might be a Division II school that you could go to. It has a much better coach that you like more, that you develop more. And yes, maybe the scholarship isn't as big and it's not Division I. So with this said, I want each of you, go ahead and think about it in terms of these 4 areas: the player, the parents, the school, and the program. And the planning process of starting to understand is, if we don't understand where we're at, we don't understand where we're going to go to. So understand where the player is and the parents, get that cleared up, and then start to look at the schools and the programs that might fit. So Trey, I'm going to open it up for you. Obviously, you've got a lot of background of this at Stanford and things like that. What's your thoughts on this? Any areas that you would highlight to any of the coaches here today?
Yeah, I think you're spot on starting with player and parents. I mean, you all coach, junior golfers. You'll realize, there's a lot of parents that want XYZ that are pushing their kid to do certain things. And then the kid gets burnt out because they don't really want it, or the player wants one thing and the parents want something different. So I think you're spot on here, trying to get the player and parents to clarify what they're after, being honest with where they're at, and kind of being realistic, right? And making sure everyone's on the same page. I think that's the big hurdle. Something I also like you said is like the coach and the teammates are huge, right? You're spending 4 or 5 years with that coach, right? Who's your surrogate father for 4 years, and your teammates are your brothers and sisters. Like, that is A, B, and C for me. And I've seen it. And I think a lot of people make the mistake of, I want that logo on my bag, I want to check that box on my resume, et cetera. And I've seen kids make that decision and they transfer, right? They're miserable because of who you spend your time with around every day. It's why people leave their jobs, right? Like, you leave big time jobs because you don't like the people you work with every day. It's the same when you go to school. And something, I've always tried to communicate in the recruiting process as a coach is like, I feel like you should choose a school that you'd go to regardless if you would play golf or not, right? Like, take golf out of the equation and you should be able to check that box. This is the right location, the right, weather, the right kind of programs I'm after, the people I want to be around regardless of the golf team. So yeah, I would say this is spot on as far as the template goes to try to check the right boxes.
Love it. Thanks, Drake. So I think one of the things here as well is that as we start to understand this, part of coaching and what I see often is that, coaches will say, yeah, we can get your son, into college golf and we can plan this out. And one or two things happens. Either A, the coach isn't truly honest and isn't really going to lay out the facts of how difficult it really is to get a Division I scholarship to a Pac-10 school. There's 10 people a year to get them, Or secondly, we put so much pressure on our students that their scoring average goes up by 7 strokes. And so this is why I think it's really important to just set it in stone. Look, currently you're shooting 77, you're a freshman, you've got this background, you've got this GPA. Let's put a pathway together to show you, but let's also put the checkpoints that at this point you could definitely go to a community college for 2 years. And then you could transfer into a UC school, which you can do in California, or a state school, depending on what track you take. And from there, you could be very eligible to go and play at a school like Davis or Cal because you're more mature, because your game is developed over 4 years instead of 2 years. We have to put a pathway in front of them that's honest and then lay out to them, this is what it costs to go ahead and play in these types of tournaments, to get a Division I scholarship to a top 50 school. You're spending $30,000 to $40,000 a year minimum on tournaments. That's not including coaching. That's not including mental strengthening. That's not including physical strengthening, all the parts to it. So I think when you run through this process and really take the time to plan, what you get with the parents is then to start to understand is, okay, so what we're going to shoot for is our son just wants to get to college and he wants to play at a school where he can play and do okay with his schooling. Like that's level 1, and show them a pathway to that. And then level 2, 3, 4 above, rather than sort of shooting for the stars and adding that pressure to that student. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go on to the second step here. So the planning, I think, is the most important part. From there, it's the research. And this is what I think that people sort of tend again to rush into. So I'm going to give you some resources here. collegegolf.com, which for all of us used to be the old ping book. You'd buy the ping book and it'd have every coach and it would have every school and the number, and you'd send your letters off to them. But now it's online. It has all the data. It has every tournament that they've played in, all the stats of the schools, the coaches, the GPAs, everything you pretty much need. So it's a great resource to go to. Golf Stat, obviously, is a huge one to go to because you're going to see every tournament they play in. You're going to see, what these kids are shooting, what their scoring averages are, what NCAA Division I schools in conference are at, what they are in NAIA, Division II, boys, girls. And so this is where, I want my students to sort of become like a true, take a master's degree in this, I want them to take a class. So when they're getting on the phone with these coaches, they're really educated in what they're talking about. And they're not just coming out of the blue, trying to call Conrad at Stanford and say, hey, I'd love to come play your team. I'm a senior shooting 79. We've got to take the time to start to understand, the background of this. And so, going to the college website, really understanding the school, the history of the school, the history of the coach, really diving deep into that, reviewing the college. There's some great stuff. So, Unigo, there's Next Step U, there's, I think it's Rank My Professor. What's the school actually like? Because most of my students, they're not going to Division I schools. You know what I mean? They are going to Division II, Division NAIA, community college, moving on from there to Division I. And so, I've got kids that have gone into D1, but my thing is I want to give every student I have that wants the opportunity to go and play college golf that opportunity. And so I want them to get to know, what is Wayne State like? One of my students went down a full scholarship, and, she got it, and she's loving it, but she'd have never thought she was going to go to Detroit 3 or 4 years ago. She had a 4.3 GPA and didn't play golf 3 years ago. Now she's there on a full ride, And so, to me, it's really starting to understand the amount of opportunities that are out there. And so I would definitely suggest getting out there and starting to look at that these are the websites that I brought up there. David, you said, has anyone used the National High School Golf Association as a resource? I have not personally. I don't know if anybody on the call today has used that. Definitely a question that we might pose to all the RGX coaches. JJ just said, I haven't heard of that. But I think that there's so many things out there that it's not about getting lost in it. It's just getting the data and starting to look at what does this school shoot, what is its scores, and then laying that out. And this isn't your role as coach, okay? This is the student's role. This is their job, right? It's to show the parents, this is what the college is shooting. This is what I'm shooting. This is how many years before I go there. This is my GPAs. This is the team's GPA. So that they're prepared, so that they understand, so they're picking schools that they have a chance to go to. And I think if they go ahead and do this right, this is the key part to it, is that if they get the researching right, the connecting becomes a lot easier, okay? And for me, this is where I think as a coach, we really stepping in, right? So preparing, practicing, and persistence. And to me, is they have got to make these mistakes with you and not a college golf coach, okay? And so it's uncomfortable for them, but guess what? It's better to train hard and play easy, right? Train hard, that's what I coach my players. So what we do is we go through the processes. And so this is what we'll go through. So the preparation part to it is this. I'm going to go ahead. I'll just bring it all up. So it's doing that, like move through stuff here. So I want their cover letter. I want their resume. I want their player video, which is an introduction of them and their down the line, online, side on and all that for all of their game. I want their upcoming tournament schedule. I want their reference lesson letters, and what connection can we get to the school? Like, we got to find a way in. We have a alumni. You've got somebody that you know who knows that coach, somebody who's been at that school. So you have some reference of why you might be wanting to go to the school and give you a connection to that coach. And then understand that school in terms of, you can research all those details about that coach and their background and what did they do in their last tournament and who's their number one player. Because when my student gets on the phone with this person, I'm realizing that most of the time, college coaches, and JJ, I'm going to ask you this one, okay, is college coaches are, am I going to be able to put up with this kid for 4 years and can I develop them? Not, are they really good players and their parents are really overbearing and they're really arrogant kids and the GPA is a little bit low and they might get kicked off a team. You're looking for somebody that you can grow and develop. If they get on that call and they're fully prepared for that call and they know information that you wouldn't expect them to know, you're going to be impressed over another student who's shooting the same score with the same GPA. JJ, if you're able to unmute yourself, what are your thoughts on that one as far as that sort of that mindset of preparation? Oh, I'm going to go back one.
I think that's great advice about the parents. I think they're recruiting the kid first, but the parents also being recruited. You don't want to deal with a parent that's going to help you constantly.
Hold on, sorry, keep on going, JJ.
But yeah, and I've developed a college recruiting program where I think where I really try to prep them on what questions to be kind of expected to ask, what they should ask, and make sure, like you said, they have the major. If you say you want to be, I don't know, sports medicine or something, make sure they have that, program, because I've had experiences with kids that didn't even realize we didn't offer, the program. So
yeah, exactly. Which is kind of the old way, right? Was pick 50 schools that you liked, fill out your resume, send it to every coach, and hopefully some of them respond to you, and maybe it might work out. And it's like, no, that's not. We've got to use pinpoint accuracy, right? In terms of, these are the 7 schools that would fit me the best, and here's another 7 that might not fit me as well. And so, just like you said there, JJ, it's like, have the right questions. And this is where the practice comes in. This is what my students hate to do, but I have them phone their own phone and leave a message, and then they have to listen to the message out loud in front of all of us, and then they have to call me, and then we'll do practice calls, and they have to call their parents, and then what we do is we have them call schools that they probably won't maybe go to, right? They might be a junior college, or it might be an NAIA school that it's not somewhere they want to go, but just getting them comfortable on the phone so they're not umming and ahhing and I forgot the questions. Yeah. And I've had students, I had one student in front of me, he called this coach, and he started talking, and he started to stumble, and he hung up on him. He just was like, he just had to hang up. We had to call the coach back. Hey, sorry, coach, had a little bit of a problem there. How are you doing? But we don't realize for a 17 or 18-year-old how difficult this is. They think playing in a tournament's easy compared to this. JJ, would you agree with that?
Oh, definitely. And that's the number one struggle, is trying to get them to follow up with a phone call. The coaches, I think on all levels, get a lot of emails from players, but you're going to separate yourself if you make a phone call and you're prepared and you show you're responsible and all that stuff. So
yeah, exactly. So as we get into that practice, I want them to know the phone call. On that phone call, what are the questions that you have to come away with? Like, you need these answers. For example, do you have space on the roster for 2023, 2024, whatever the date is, right? Because if they don't, we need to know that. I'm not going to ask them if they have scholarship money, because, like, to me, that's like just too brash, and it's almost like one-minded, because I want my kids to say, look, I would go here even if I couldn't get a scholarship, because this is the coach I want to be under. This is the school I want to be at. If a scholarship comes, that's fantastic. Now, if it's directly, it has to be a scholarship, well, then we'll be picking other schools to call right away. And this might be one of our reach schools if we actually play phenomenal in our junior or senior year. I want them to know, and this is one of the big parts to me, is I tell them, what would it take me to play at your school where you couldn't say no to me? Now, that's a really strong question for someone who's 17 to say to a coach who's 45, right? Or 65, and say, what would you could not say no to me? What would that look like? If you were shooting 74, in what tournaments? how many day tournaments? What type of tournament? Hurricane Tour, JJGNC, to AJGA? Like, what do you need my ranking to be? What do you need my GPA to be? Because here's the thing is, some players will drag these phone calls on with coaches that probably aren't going to pick them, and they almost think like it's hope. And to me, it's like, look, either they're going to say yes or they're going to say no, but let's figure out right now. And if the coach says, look, I'm fully booked for the next 3 years, there's no chance of you playing at this school. You could still bust down the door and still try and go and play there. But we might want to move on and look at some others. And if you start posting some 65s, this coach might call you, right? So to me is, we've got to make sure that we've done the practice calls. We know the questions we want to come away with. And again, practice listening, doing the messages, because a lot of times my experience is the coaches are out either recruiting on a golf course, at a tournament, or just not by their phones. And so it's really important for us to get good at leaving the message and being comfortable that when we do get on the phone, asking the questions, the hard questions that are going to get us to play at that school. So the final part to this here, after the connecting side, and I think this is what, is so vital here, is the understanding of impressing, right? It's impressing that coach. So we clarify, communicate, and stay consistent. And I think this is where I have seen kids that I've coached, I shouldn't say kids because they're adults now, but they seem like kids to me, on how they've got college scholarships is by being persistent. And so with that said, to me, persistence is make them say yes. And I don't mean by forcing it on them, but I've had players who've had really hard sort of end of junior year, beginning of high school, senior year seasons. Like they just haven't played good. They've shot 87, 71, 85, 73. They're just throwing numbers out there because of anxiety, because of tension. But every week they've sent them the coach's workout routine. They've sent them the details of the next tournament, what they learned from the last tournament, what they're working on in their game, updated videos of their swing, reaching out to the coach, checking in after tournaments. Hey, great to see that you guys just placed fifth in that last tournament. You're trying to get your students to say, I want you to be around me as a coach. Like my students, I love being around them. They don't know that about you yet. So yes, I'll give you a reference. I'll talk to that coach, but you've got to prove it to them. They've probably got 30 people that want this position. And those other 30 people are probably shooting the same scores as you, or some are better. Some have a better GPA, but what's your character? How are you going to impose and impress on them who you really are? So that consistent communication after every single tournament, what you're doing in your game to improve. And I think this is the key thing here is it's the good and the ugly, okay? And I say the opportunities here is that, hey, I shot 71, but I'm not going to tell you about the 85 because they're going to see your tournament schedule. If they really start to like you, they're going to look at your tournament schedule. Let them know, hey, 85, this is what I learned. This is how I'm changing my practice schedule. This is what I realized what I wasn't prepared for. This is how I've seen my failures and built feedback from it, and here's my practice plan. They know you're going to play poorly. Everyone plays poorly at golf, right? But you're also going to have good days. What are you going to do on those bad days? So don't just make it a rosy picture. Really show them that you're going to handle the adversity well. And again, showing them your commitment level. When can I come out and, see the school? When can I go ahead and have you come out and watch me play in a tournament? Here's another updated swing video of mine. Hey, here's a reference letter from another person. This is why you should pick me to be in the school that your school. And I think this is just that key side to it is asking them for feedback. What do you need me to do? You see, I've got a lot of players, and take a look how we don't have time, but a couple more minutes here. I know I had a lot to go through today. I have players that think they've got to play AJGA, and you ask the coach, and they're like, I just want to see you shoot as low as you possibly can. Do you mind what tournament it is? No, I don't. Pick the easiest golf courses in your area, in the school, the tournaments you played in for years, and go and shoot a 63, 64, 65, because that's what they want to see. I've got other coaches that say, no, I'm just looking for consistency around even par in 3-day tournaments. Then go and play in those tournaments if you want to go to that school. But if you're just blindly thinking you're going to get to that school without knowing what that school and that coach is looking for, it's going to be very difficult. We just did that podcast the other week with the Cal golf coach, Walter Chan. And, he was talking specifically about this is what I'm looking for in a player. This is what I tell them. Because I want them to play at my school, but they've also got to realize there's 20 other kids that want that same spot. And so to me, this is where you've got to make them want you, and the keys here is just don't be afraid of the no. If a coach tells you, no, you're not a good fit for my school, move on to the next school. There's hundreds of them out there. And I don't think that, to be honest, if you get a degree from school A, B, or C, they're all great schools, right? Any school you get a good business degree from and you get to play college golf at, you're probably not going to look back and see that was the crucial part of my journey. It's how you reacted to challenges. It's who you were around your team. It's how you developed as a player, how you developed as a student to then go out into the real world. So getting hung up on the school because they say no shouldn't be a problem. Go out there and shoot the scores and see if that school pulls you back. For parents, don't get stuck on the scholarship. I see them just getting stuck on like, oh, but he's got a scholarship here. And it's like, yeah, but it's not the school your kid should go to. And we all know that. And let's forget about it. And sometimes the scholarships are $4,000 or $5,000. It's not a $50,000 scholarship. It's more being able to tell people, my son got a scholarship to a Division I school. Well, I prefer him to get a bigger scholarship to a Division II school that's actually got a good coach and where he can develop as a player, because he's going to go into Division I school as the number one player, and he's already got a huge ego. And some of the coaches that work with me know who I'm talking about. And this young man has now graduated and he's developed unbelievably because he went to a good D2 school instead of a D1 school. And so I think this is just this whole idea of, don't get stuck on the division. Understanding the planning phases is so important. Being prepared and getting in there, doing the practice, and then being persistent. And if you do that, you've created a path for your students to start having the opportunity to play college golf. Now, I know it is 9:31 right now. I knew that it was going to go long because I was working on this week. There was a lot to be said. So, I'm going to wrap up here, be respectful of all of your time. Couple things. For you RGX coaches, this video will be put into the training site. You'll see it, ask questions in the community. We'll get great feedback from a bunch of the coaches, Coach Ryan, who coaches for me, all my college players. And then for those of you who haven't started a journey yet, who may be looking to improve your business, get better results for your players, please reach out to us, come and join and start to understand what we do at RGX and how we can help you. And again, I look forward to seeing you all next week. Be sure to get on the schedule for next week. Invite other pros to come and join us. Everybody make it a fantastic week. Thank you for taking the time, and I'll catch you next Monday. Thanks.